As we have said on more than one occasion, public safety is priority number one for us. A safe community should be the basis of our community going forward. Everyone in a rational and coherent society should expect to live in a peaceful community. So public safety is due north for us. Secondly, as many of you know, we have embraced a comprehensive strategy that we refer to as PIES, P-I-E-S, for prevention, intervention, enforcement/suppression, and finally sustainability. Today I'm here to talk about Measure NN because that is the E part of our four-part comprehensive strategy, and that is the efficient and effective deployment of the police as one part of our public safety strategy. By way of background, I want to recall this bit of history. As many of you are aware, a few months back an organization emerged called Safe Streets. Their desire was to increase the Oakland Police Department to somewhere close to 1,200 police officers. Their argument was that for a city this size, that 803 police officers was inadequate. The problem was that they wanted to present this to the Oakland voters, and the caveat was no taxes. Here's the math. Each police officer cost approximately $250,000, give or take. So for every 4 police officers, that's $1 million. So if you're talking about increasing by nearly 300 police officers, do the math. So somewhere around $70 million is what it costs. Without taxes then, as you know, we've just walked through a very important budget process where I pointed out that our discretionary spending is already down to $110 million. To find $65 to $75 million in that context would be to shut down most of our government. So my response to that was, Oakland should have an intelligent conversation going forward about whether or not we need to increase the police department. But I thought that that proposal was irresponsible because nothing is for free. Someone was going to end up paying, and that meant that people least able to handle the shock of the government backing away from providing necessary and essential services to this community would be adversely impacted by that. I then floated an idea, some of you may recall, of let's look at a 4-year proposition to increase the police department by approximately 50 police officers per year over a 4-year period for an increase of 200. That actually was favorably responded to by many people, and my caveat was, if we want to increase, then we need to pay for it. And I think our present economic circumstances speak powerfully, writ large, that if we're going to have any increase, we're going to have to pay for it. There's no free lunch out there, and there are no dollars to pay for this unless people are prepared to pay for it. The Safe Streets people then came to me and said, we will go away. Our proposition will go away if we can sit down with you and engage in a process that would arrive at a number of officers to increase our present police force, and if we can do that, we'll go away. I agreed to enter into that process, and we did that with integrity. So we involved the police department, members of the city council, members of the public Safe Streets advocacy, and we arrived at this conclusion. Because I sat down with Police Chief Tucker and his staff, and he said, we don't need to do 50 a year for 4 years. We can do this at 35 police officers and 25 technicians each year for 3 years, giving us 105 police officers and 75 technicians over a 3-year period, and that would address the needs that we have in the Oakland Police Department. That at the appropriate point I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Lohman to speak to in very specific terms. So that brings us here. I also want to make one other very important point. Many of you recall that in our State of the City address in January of this year, I said that the voters of Oakland wanted 803 police officers. That's what they voted for. That was their mandate. We have an authorized strength of 740 police officers. Measure-wide called for 63 problem-solving officers for a total of 803. That was the challenge that I offered in January. I am here to say to you that this coming Friday we will graduate a class from the academy that will put us at 800 police officers. On the 14th of November, a second academy will graduate, and we will then be over 803, somewhere in the vicinity of 820. So the challenge we offered and the commitment we made in January will be upheld, and by the 14th of November, we will have met that goal. Secondly, and that will be the largest police force that we've had in decades, and it will speak to the mandate that Oakland residents called for. Secondly, with respect to the 63 problem-solving officers, we now, at this very moment, have 57 problem-solving officers, one in each beat in this city, and when you add the sergeants, that now is 63. So what I am saying to you is that the commitment that was made in 2004 on our watch has been achieved. So we now have our 63 problem-solving officers, and by the middle of November, we will have our 803 plus police officers. So that brings us now back to NN. As I said, 105 police officers, uniformed sworn police officers, and 75 technicians.